that, I can change the trajectory of their families for the next 100 or 200 years. So that's one of the most exciting things about being in higher education and being in a place like University of Chicago, that we have that great opportunity to come in contact with folks like you. And, by way of also sort of introduction, as a senior associate dean, I represent the University of Chicago, who for 130 years, we've also weathered a lot of challenges. We started right after the Great Fire in Chicago. We've survived the Spanish flu in 1918, 2 world wars. So this university is resilient in our support and in our mission. And we believe strongly in the evidence-based approaches to government, public safety, health, that our faculty and students have been working towards. And now more than ever, that's in need. And I'm really honored and delighted that you guys are seeking that out. But I know you have a lot of questions. I just want to set up a little introduction and just express my gratitude that you guys have been admitted. And let's figure out ways to make sure that you can start and join our academic community. So Jenny, why don't you raise some of the questions that some of the students are having right now, and don't be shy. This is an important time as you're thinking about your future, and so let me and Jenny and the team be a good resource to you.
Thanks so much, Ranjan, for that introduction and sharing those details with everyone. I think it's helpful to just jump right into some of the tough questions we're hearing from students. Students are wondering how communities are tackling this just unprecedented crisis. We all recently, staff and here at the university, received a communication from President Zimmer sharing a statement about the importance of addressing this situation as a community. Can you speak a little bit to how Harris and the University of Chicago is addressing this as a community?
Jenny, I think, what a key thing here is, we wanted to put the safety of our community first, in making sure that we could sort of provide a remote educational experience for our students to keep them on track for graduation, to keep them on track for their studies, but also do so in a way that's compliant with the Center for Disease Control and also the policies that our governors across this country have been implementing, particularly here in Illinois, where we've shut down schools, K through 12 plus graduate schools. No groups of over 10 people can meet. I mean, you all are aware of this. So we've been responding to this. And I think we've also taken a lot of forward activity, sort of thinking ahead of where things are going to keep our students and our staff and our faculty safe. So we've pivoted to distance learning like almost every other university and school in the US has done. We have a large student services team, one of the largest of any school that you're looking at, that has been reaching out to our students. We have a large career services team thinking about those students that are close to graduation. And we are, working to kind of make sure that we do the best that we can to support our students. So I think that's first and foremost what we've been thinking about. We value face-to-face interactions. We believe heavily in our classroom experience, but we're not we're not allowed to do that right now, and nor should we. So we are making sure that we can support our students in the best way that we can.
Okay, great, thank you, Ranjan. I think another question that students have been asking, if we will be online in the fall. I don't know about you, but like I said in the beginning, it's been a week and I miss seeing our students. I miss being in Keller. I'm hopeful we'll be back to regular business soon. But for those who are thinking about this and weighing their options, what is your recommendation?
I think there's a lot of uncertainty that we're forced to sort of think about, what the future might look like. I think we all are looking at very similar information in social media, in the news media about best practices. I think we're also seeing what's happening in countries like China and South Korea and Japan, who are a few months or weeks ahead of the US or Europe in all these in these encounters, and what's happening to their life in this. We have every hope and plans that we are going to be in person with our program in the fall. We aren't a school that was like gee, we really want to be online and have a digital school. And this is a great opportunity. You know, like you see some businesses that were, you know, whether they're HubSpot, you know, these sort of, whether it's Zoom or Grubhub, that are like in a great spot right now. That wasn't what the University of Chicago is looking at. We want to get back to in-person delivery, and we believe strongly in the community in-person experience. But we will follow what the elected governors and what the Center for Disease Control and what our own healthcare leadership at the University of Chicago Hospital advises, and we want to keep our community safe. You know, I don't know if we have any, you know, great expertise here, but I would say that I have a lot of confidence over the next 5 or 6 months based on what people have been willing to do in this short period of time. I've never seen Chicago, the US, New York respond in the way that they have. I mean, literally almost there is, you know, with the exception of groceries and a few other businesses that are open, everything else is, you know, virtually shut down. That will have an impact. That will have a positive impact. We won't see those results maybe next week or the week after, but over time, this, you know, Herculean effort that people have made, not just here in the US, but around the world, will make a difference. And we will find some way to, you know, coexist until there is a vaccine. So I think if I was making this indication, I would think that in 5 or 6 months, you know, fortunately our classes start in October. So that is usually that's a disadvantage, but it's actually an advantage that we're a little bit later. In fact, the latest start of most schools. My hope is that by that time we figured out a way that we can, you know, exist and still sort of move on with our lives. I think right now what we're all wrestling with, everybody is how do we balance the mitigation efforts that are critical to stopping this health crisis, but also like what about sort of the economic and social trade-offs that we're making? And these are great policy questions that I don't know we have the answer to. So I think we'll have to sort through those. But I think at some point, you know, later in the summer, there will be a balance. And if it isn't, then I think it won't be like there'll be classes at University of Chicago in person and everybody else will be online. I think, you know, schools will respond in similar manners. And I think, you know, there will be a level playing field for you to make a decision. The other thing that you'll have to be, you know, mindful of is we're very much focused on the health and public safety community impact. But the economic impact of what we're doing right now is going to be significant, and it's going to continue on through the next few months. So I think those economic pain points, I think, aren't front and center right now, but they will be by the end of the summer or early fall. And that will also influence, you know, whether folks will want to make those trade-offs. So will they have other opportunities to look at? Those are all questions that each of you will have to answer.
Thanks for answering those questions, Ranjan. We certainly have a lot coming in from students. Kind of the last question before we start diving in and scrolling through and seeing any questions Sam and I didn't get to. Ranjan, we want to make sure we give the students plenty of time to continue to ask questions. So everybody go ahead and ask questions while Ranjan is answering this final kind of group question we've seen. But what advice do you have to students right now who are trying to make tough decisions in this unprecedented time? What are the things they should be weighing, the questions they should be asking, the programs they're looking at? You know, I think we have the typical advice that we would give them. So maybe if you could go over that, you know, talking about what students should be asking, what they should be thinking about, but also, are there other additional questions they should be asking about student services, people they can talk to and reach out to that are helpful for them to be asking during this time?
That's a great setup there, Jenny. So there's a lot there, and I hope there'll be follow-up questions from the audience and the admins on this. So what should students be thinking about? So if I were to sort of put myself back, go in the Wayback Machine and think about, you know, what it'd be like to be in my early 20s or mid 20s or early 30s. You have a lot of advantages that your parents and grandparents don't have right now, in that you can pivot and adapt to what's going to happen, not just on the health side, but also in the economic changes that may happen after this, right? because we could see a world in which we can go back to work and do some things, but some of the things that we, things like South by Southwest, how soon those types of things will start up, how soon sort of sporting events and stuff like that's also uncertain. So I think, given that uncertainty, I think the things that we can look at over the test of time have been when people have invested in human capital, when they've invested in themselves, however the world may unfold, you will see a positive return on that investment in a couple different ways. One, you'll have more skills and be more marketable when things do pick up. And secondly, you're going to build relationships. One thing that I've been very struck with, all my kids are now home doing distance learning. And I've been struck by how much they miss that community, how much they miss sort of their interaction with classmates and teachers. So I think being parts of communities and investing in yourself, and I think don't think about it what you've been doing in the last couple of weeks, because right now we're survival mode. We're like, nobody planned for this. Nobody was thinking months or years ahead. So now you're like, oh, I hadn't gone grocery shopping in 2 weeks. I didn't have this thing taken care of. I didn't know what medications my mother or grandmother was on. Now we've kind of done all that. But in a few weeks and a month from now, you'll start thinking about your future and what you want to do. And I think the things you can lean into are, developing your human capital and your talent, because you are the best asset and the most valuable asset that you have is your talent, right? And then extending your network and community. So I think those are the two things that I would encourage you to lean in on. You'll see a lot of disruption in industry, in sectors. You'll see a lot of changes. And then the more that you can be resilient, developing the skills that will help not just today, but in the future, those are going to be analytical skills. Those are going to be like measurable tools that can drive impact. I think you're going to see some value. The other thing is, I think it's great that you guys you're ahead of the curve by thinking about public policy and social impact, right? Now more than ever, it's going to be less about who you want to have a beer with and who's tall and good looking. And it's really like, we want leaders that can be effective, that can do things, that can sort of solve problems. And I think that is what the University of Chicago and the Harris School has been about. That's what you are about by seeking this out, right? You were looking for these things. And I think your interest will be rewarded, because we're going to need to rebuild our education system, healthcare, our infrastructure, our policy framework. The way we think about social safety nets is going to radically change. And I think I would love to be on the forefront of that. And that's where you guys are. So I think from that standpoint, you want to think about this. And you're also in a way much more resilient to these changes, because you don't have, some of the legacy costs that your parents or grandparents have, houses and commitments. You have the ability to sort of retool in this environment and to be very successful. But I think you want to think about when things get, when there is a vaccine, or when we have a sense that we can test and go out safely and we understand these things, then what is going to be successful and what's going to be valued. And I think the skills that we've been teaching on statistics, data analytics, behavioral economics, those things are going to be front and center. And I think you will be in a great position to come out of this very strong and in a great way. And you also will have a very big team of career services, admissions, recruitment, academic advisors, teaching assistants that the University of Chicago has to support you in those efforts.
Thanks, Ranjan. That's really helpful. And we've started to get some really good questions from our audience, some people asking some of the same questions, so I've kind of grouped them together. We have some admitted students on this webinar, but we also have students who right now have unsubmitted applications. So just want to clarify that our next deadline for our full-time programs is March 31st. But Ranjan, any recommendations you might want to have to students? We've talked a lot to admitted students, but those who might be here who are not admitted and are planning on applying for March 31st, who might be nervous about submitting an application.
My advice to everyone on this call or Zoom is you want to open doors and create options, right? You want to create some option value. So, and the great news is each of you has worked very hard in undergrad, in your high school, in your communities, in your resumes. I mean, Jenny and I are always humbled and impressed by all the great candidates we see and their background. So you guys have already done all that. The next thing is thinking a lot about how do you open doors and create more options? Because right now, you may be seeing doors close because of things that you can't sort of control. For a nonprofit right now, it's going to be very difficult to fundraise or even do some of the mission work that you're doing because of the changes in our society. So you'll see team members that are caught up in that. Take a look at our Peace Corps and our Fulbright people that might be on this Zoom talk who have been evacuated from their country. So they won't be able to have the impact that they wanted to. So we'll see a lot of those types of situations. So what you want to do by submitting an app, by putting down a deposit or something like that, is you've created, at least you have something that you can sort of count on. And then as you look at other types of things, you want to create more or different options. That's what my advice would be right now as folks are thinking about that. How do you create some options? And we will want to be as flexible in terms of understanding what everyone's going through in terms of being able to get an application in or, knowing how you're going to be able to start.
I think that's a really helpful framework for everyone to consider is the idea of keeping options open. I've never talked with a student who has said, I wish I hadn't applied to schools. I wish I hadn't done this earlier. Students are always happy that they've left that option open. And a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you'll probably be very grateful that you had options and things to consider. We had another question come in about kind of related to this is how does the deferral process work at Harris? And that's something else I think is helpful for students to know a little bit more about.
So one thing that you can also take it, so Jenny asked a couple of questions ago, how can you take advantage or what can you do? We have a very large recruitment team that is available to talk and walk you through these situations. So I think each of these kind of questions about deferral, about submitting apps, about accepting are very personal decisions, and you shouldn't do this alone. You should sort of talk through your options. We do have a process in which people are able to defer for a year. You have to put your deposit down and you hold your spot for the next year. And I think for some people, that'll be something that will make a lot of sense. For other people, I think, you may not know your options. And then over the summer, you might learn that, the employment market that you were counting on or the employer that you're with right now, you may not have those room for advancement, or you may not have, the position the same way that you have it now. So I think, these deferral questions are tricky. I don't think you have to make a decision today. And I would encourage you to wait, a little bit of time if you've already accepted your offer or you plan to accept your offer to think through about the deferral. But I think you have to see what are your options professionally. Are you better off by waiting on improving your human capital, building your network, maybe pivoting to a new industry that may have a downturn in the near term, but is going to do very well in the future? So you want to ride that storm out. So those are good questions to think about. But I think this is something where you should definitely talk to one of our team members and look through your options. It's easy to think about it in a macro, but these are all micro decisions, individual decisions. So keep those in mind.
That's really helpful information, Ranjan. A question from a few different students is about visa timelines. How might these timelines change? How will we accommodate and work with students? What is our expectation for the timeline? And I think, Ranjan, you touched on it about the individual outreach and how different that's going to be. Let the team members know if you're concerned about your visa timeline. We have a great OIA office, but I don't know if there's anything else you want to add for those who are international students who might be thinking through the logistics of their visa timeline.
It's a good question. I think everyone that's overseas right now looking at this visa sees the same things that Jenny and I see. I mean, right now you can't get appointments at U.S. embassies or in your home countries to get visas, and planes aren't flying and all those types of things. So we're aware of that. The good news is, I think the good news is that you have a while before you have to show up for our program. So again, with our late start, that's going to be an advantage to us to navigate these travel and visa limitations. I think you also want to look again at the experience and the heft and the size of the schools that you're applying to in terms of, will they be able to navigate this thing? And the good news is, like at University of Chicago, we have lots of international students across at Booth, at the college, at the medical school, in our social sciences division, at Harris. So we are well versed in dealing with this, and we have a large team that's assigned to do this. So I think this is not the time, I would imagine, to sort of like, this school has very few international students and I'm going to get a lot of great attention. Well, they may not be equipped to deal with the nuances and the scale of what's going to happen. So I think we're going to monitor this very closely. Of course, if there are visa or travel restrictions, that will sort of dictate how we'll respond, but I don't think we have to respond today on that. That is something we can just respond and look at over the summer. So I think you do have some time to consider that.
Ranjan, we've also got some great questions from students that are kind of specific to the programs, the traditional questions we've seen from students in the past. So some students are asking about insights on the core electives and considerations they should take into account when deciding on electives. I always, let students know that as far as I know, we have more elective options than almost any other MPP program. So it gives you a lot of different opportunities and things to look at. But do you have recommendations or advice for how students can think about the core at Harris and how they can think about electives?
Right. So the core is 2 quarters of economics, 2 quarters of statistics, 2 quarters of political economy, and then one other class, or behavioral. And I think there you get a good foundation for how you can attack public policy, social impact, social justice issues across the world. It is that framework that I think differentiates us, and that skill set that employers value now more than ever. It's that, we're seeing, on the fly, the challenges of having incomplete or suboptimal data and how we have to make big decisions off of that. So I think the skill set that we have in our core is very relevant and very helpful and unique. And that's what's going to, like, if the economy toughens up, then you want to have the sharpest, most measurable quantitative toolkit out there. You're going to put yourself up in a chance for success. Next is, in terms of the versatility of the degree, you now have the ability to take electives across the University of Chicago. So that is at the business school, at the law school, at our social science division, or within Harris, and then tailor your sort of toolkit to hit specific areas or issues that you want to face, which is, could be environmental or health policy or education. You also want to think a lot about the function that you're going to have. So are you going to be an analyst, or are you going to be a program leader? So that means you can think about how are you going to build an organization? How are you going to build a team? How are you going to scale? How are you going to access capital? So those are other skill sets that you need. And that's where, like, the Rostondi Center and the Polsky Institute at Booth can be really great resources for Harris students. So I think you want to look at where like I talked earlier about the option value. Then once you arrive on campus, where do you have the most options in terms of electives, in terms of research opportunities, in terms of social innovation, startups? These are all things that I think are going to be really relevant. I think one thing that you're going to see is this is going to be a tremendous opportunity for new startups or new ways of thinking or new paradigms. We're going to see a paradigm shift because of what's happening. And again, people on this Zoom chat are going to be sort of well positioned to sort of pivot much more than incumbent or more seasoned folks. But Jenny, why don't we stick with some of these, because I don't know if I'm any more insightful on what's happening in the world than anybody on this Zoom chat. So why don't we assume that there's some questions related to grad programs, because we also know that people are looking at various different programs right now.
Yeah, Ranjan, actually, we've kind of taken a pivot in the chat, and most of our questions are now about Harris and the MPP program. So I'll throw a few more of those to you. We have some other students asking about kind of choosing certificates or specializations, how that works. Do they work with faculty members? Do they work with an academic advisor? What are the resources that Harris has available to help students choose kind of what's right for them?
We have a large academic advising team that, over the summer or as soon as you accept your offer, we'll start working with you. So I think you want to think about, not just sort of the start date of the program. I think you want to think about how do you suck as much value out of this experience as you can? How do you sort of take advantage of sort of our summer things like Jumpstart and our sort of preparatory work, but also thinking about your academic planning, how are you going to take advantage of the electives, and also getting ready to meet with our career services team. We have a very large services team. We have about 10 people, which is far larger than any of our competitors. So you can get that one-to-one service because, on this Zoom chat, we'll have probably people that are looking at federal, local, state. We'll have people that are looking at international development, looking at NGOs, consulting, Fortune, 1,000 sort of companies. So very diverse interests. So you want a career team that is nimble and large enough to support that varied interests. So I think the student services team and our academic advising team, along with our career team, they're all great resources for students. In terms of the certificates, I think, there are certificates at Harris that I think are helpful and valuable, and students can take sequence of classes in their electives to check the boxes to get that. But I'd also encourage you to also think more broadly and not just about certificates, because employers are going to look at, do you have experiential learning skills? Have you actually done some of these things? So we have things like policy labs where you can sort of get an immersive experience in a policy issue or area. There'll be also, are you doing classes that are working with data sets from city or federal governments? So those are also things that you're looking for. Are you getting skills to help you lead or manage teams? Those will also be things to think about. So while a lot of times we look at certificates, I think it's also just the body of experience that you have that employers are going to value and look for. But you won't be doing this alone. You can do this by talking to our current students, but also talking to our professional staff that is here to support you.
So we have a question from somebody who is from Chicago and was wondering what's the kind of relationship the MPP program has with the cities and the communities that surround UChicago.
We have a very strong connection with city and local government and county, with the Chicago Public Schools, the police department, and Chicago has been known for a very active nonprofit community organizing. There was a community organizer on the south side of Chicago, Barack Obama, who started in Chicago and ended up becoming president. So we have a rich tradition in this city of those types of institutions, and we work very closely with each level in various different ways. So whether it's through a formal research center or whether it's through a class, we have a lot of opportunities to engage with our neighbors and our government partners. And I think that's one of the differentiating points of our program, in that you get to test out your ideas in the real world or see how they're working in Chicago. And then you can take that to Miami, Mumbai, Los Angeles, Tokyo, and see, did it work did it work in Chicago, or did it not work? Could it work over here? I think that's a big part of our experience. So I think that is something that you can count on. And there are things like, if you want to know more about this, check out the Crime Lab and the Education Lab that are part of the Urban Labs at UChicago. Check out the Energy Policy Institute at UChicago, EPIC, that focuses on energy and environmental and climate change. Look at the Behavior and Parenting Lab, which is working with public schools and early child care providers in Chicago and the metro area. looking at how to help parents make better decisions with their kids. So I think there are a lot of different opportunities with our faculty and with our research centers to do just that.
Ranjan, we have another question from students asking about international development at Harris, both for MPP students as well as MAIDP students. I know we have a lot of students on this webinar that are calling from all over. So we just, talked a little bit about Chicago and our involvement in the city and the direct communities. Could you talk a little bit more about, if you're interested in international development at Harris, what should be kind of top of mind for you?
We have a very strong group of faculty members in the form of, Chris Blattman, James Robinson, Austin Wright, Andrella Dubé, that are looking at international development. They're also part of a larger university that has hundreds of faculty that are looking at every part of the world in many different lenses. So I think there are those opportunities. And I think international development also can be a broad category of, I want to do work in international development, or I want to do international policy work. And there in the international policy work, you'll see that our faculty are doing work in education, poverty, housing, health that translate around the world. So I think through both the international development program, the international development curriculum that Chris Blattman and Rebecca Wolf have been putting together, I think you have a lot of different opportunities for students to engage. The other piece of this is, about half of our students, or almost 60% of our students, are from outside the US. So your classroom is global. And I think that's also a big selling point as you're thinking about policy, whether you're thinking about state and local government here in the US or international government. You want to be around a diverse, in every sense of the way, classroom, and you want to have students from around the world that can help shape and mold your thinking on policy. And I think that's an important part of our program.
Okay, great. So some other questions students are asking about is kind of resources for when they arrive before classes begin. What type of support sources are there? What can they expect that's going to be support sources throughout the fall? One thing I always mention to students is our Dean of Students, Kate Biddle. I don't think in over 10 years of higher education, I've met someone more devoted to student success and preparing students than her. And she, has been sending out emails very regularly to students currently. And I know that she's always advocating for the students. That's what she is thinking about and supporting. So I think a lot of the resources that are available in the fall, Kate Biddle will think of the best ways to make sure students get that information. But Ranjan, could you talk a little bit about resources that we have for students that will help them be successful academically?
I think we do a lot of preparation in advance in terms of we have a math sort of camp. We also have a Jumpstart, which helps people that have been doing sort of leadership roles, but not sort of working with quantitative data. But the biggest thing I think you mentioned is Kate Biddle and her team. We proactively across the summer work with students very closely, and that's the advantage of being at a large program like ours, where we have the staff and the resources to support you and to sort of build an individual sort of plan of attack to help connect you with research centers or with faculty or with employers, right? I think you should have an academic plan, but you should also be thinking about, where you want to intern, where you want to eventually look for full-time employment, and then how can you tap our alumni or current students to make that happen. And I think Kate Biddle's team and ASA is a great sort of launch point for that. But it also starts with the admission team. I mean, we have admission team members who, from the time that you're sort of at this stage to accepting our offer to before you start, can connect you with current students or different resources across the university, so you don't have to do this alone. Right now you're going to be also, you can do a lot virtually, but you also need like a staff member or a team member to really help sort of navigate things. And I think taking advantage of the admissions team and the academic and student affairs team will be the best way to navigate that. And that's a great advantage of being in a large program like ours.
Ranjan, Another question that we have, and this might be our almost final question. Sam and I are both scrolling through to double check, but you're from Hyde Park. You've lived there. We have students that are talking about housing options. I know that we have students who live all over the city, but what advice do you have for people who are thinking about where to look for housing in the city of Chicago?
I think so I would advise you to first, this is a great opportunity to join the Facebook group and connect with current students. We have current students that work with the admissions team that can help connect you. So I think the more you can sort of find out from current students as to where they're living, for me, it's sort of a trade-off thinking back to like, do you value sort of commute and sleep and sort of efficiency of getting to class versus having a longer commute and maybe having more lifestyle options or social activities, right? So I think Chicago is a pretty reasonable city in comparison to New York, San Francisco, DC. And I think there are a lot of good housing options, but I think the best way to do that is to sort of talk to current students, get a feel for the neighborhoods that are a fit for them. Some people on this conversation right now have families and kids. That's a different conversation. And I'd encourage you to reach out to either me directly or our staff to connect you with families that are here, that are students that are a little bit older or have a partner or kids. That's a different consideration. But Chicago is a great city to live in. A lot of wonderful neighborhoods and a good set of housing options. We don't have graduate housing, so I think that is something students will have to navigate. But I think it's something that is really kind of a plus, I think, in many respects.
Ranjan, we do have some question about career outcomes. I know in the beginning we kind of talked about how there's so much in flux. We don't have a magic 8-ball, but I also know that you and I have been reviewing and editing a career outcomes brochure for this most recent class. So can you talk a little bit about when students might be able to see that?
Yeah, I think within the next few days, we'll have an electronic PDF version of our career outcomes report. We have one up right now for last year. So for 2 years ago, this will be our current report. We have a very strong placement, 96%. We're seeing, really strong sector diversity, industry, nonprofits, state and local governments, a little less on the federal side. We're seeing good placements by our international students, very strong outcomes for the MSCAP and the computational analysis program, MACRM students getting placed in PhD programs. So it's been a very strong year for us. And, I know that's going to be like, well, what's the future going to be like? But I think you want to go to strength. And if, whatever the future is, if schools are performing very strongly now and they have the resources in career services support, in teams that are dedicated to support you, then you'll feel better about that than places that have dodgier outcomes or less support. So I would look at this as very hopeful. And the good news with the 2-year program is many of the things that you're going to see economically unfold over the next few months will be sort of hopefully corrected and sort of on the other side of it after your graduate school experience in a 2-year or even a 1-year program. So I think that is something to think about and to forecast. And I would also encourage you, don't just take my word for it. Talk to your recommenders who recommended you to graduate school. Talk to them, see what they think that you should do, and talk to some of your professional or academic mentors. I think those are the things that I would lean on right now. And folks will be happy to give you guys advice and to share what you guys should do and give their insights on that.
Ranjan, I think we have kind of neared the end of most of our questions. I think it's a helpful reminder to students that we typically do some type of Zoom virtual event almost once a week throughout our application cycle, but next week is our big week, our virtual admitted student week, a whole week of events that have been put together that we hope our admitted students will consider attending. Sam and a lot of our colleagues put in a lot of thought to creating sessions that are really going to be great for you. So if you haven't already and you're an admitted student, sign up for the virtual admitted student week. And Ranjan, final words of advice, thoughts, things you want to share with everyone who has so many different things on their mind.
Again, I really I really appreciate your interest in our program, and I know that you are the young people or young adults who are doing everything that we want, right? You're taking care of your families, your home, you're thinking about, how you can make an impact in the future in your communities or internationally. So just know that you have a place at the University of Chicago that's ready to support and scaffold you. And I would take advantage of this time to look at the schools that you're able to connect with and talk to people and get good feedback, talk to current students. And then we do have a virtual admitted student week next week. Last year, we had a wonderful in-person experience. We've had to pivot it to online, but you'll get a lot of exposure to current students, to our staff, to faculty. So take advantage of that opportunity to learn. And I think those are the best things that I would recommend. And talk to me, talk to Jenny, talk to one of our team members. And these are so we can go through your specific situation. I think that's really the key, because you're looking for not what is best for everybody. You're looking at what's the best outcome or path for you. And these are personal decisions. So take advantage of that. We have acuity times, we have Zoom, we have different ways of engaging. And I would go to organizations and schools that are offering you that kind of support to help you navigate these very difficult and uncertain decisions. But finally, like I started this conversation with, I think if you can invest in yourself and develop your skills and talent and network, that once things sort of come out of this sort of very uncertain period, you will be poised to be very successful and in the right direction. And you have the ability to move into new areas much faster than other people. So take advantage. It's very easy to look at the things you don't have right now, but I would focus on the strengths you have and double down on those, and look at the University of Chicago and our team as a place to help support you and get you the outcomes that you need. And I think the opportunity to study and be part of a community over the next couple of years, I think will be a really strong option for you. And I think it's one I hope you consider. The other good news is you do have a little bit of time, a few weeks to decide on some things. So take advantage of that and talk more with us. So I'm happy to answer additional questions via email or through Jenny at some other point. And if you find this helpful, we can sort of come back on specific topics. I'm happy to be a resource to you. So thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ranjan. Thanks, everyone, for your time. We've sent some links to the chat feature to everyone, so make sure to capture those. And we'll go ahead and end this event. One more thought from Ranjan.
One thing, so I think there's also, when you have very talented people, you see, opportunities that are created at a very difficult time. So, with the academic and student affairs team, they've been very creative in making sure that students have access to our faculty during this period. And classes that were physically constrained because of classroom space now have opportunities for more students to participate in. So even within these uncertain times, high performing schools that have resources will do the best and the right by their students. So take advantage of those types of things as well. So thank you, and I hope you and your families are doing as well as can be expected, and you're able to get support. And be sure to reach out to your incoming other classmates on our social media sites, and make that connection and network. It's very important to have relationships during this period, so please do that. And don't hesitate to reach out to me or Jenny or Samantha or anyone on our team to talk more. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.